As far as recording goes, I use OBS because I do it for like streaming and stuff, so I'm used to it. But if you're not familiar with like how to just record screen recordings on Windows, let me know. I'll put the link in there. I think it's Alt R opens up the little screen record dialog. So if you're playing a game or whatever, you can just hit Alt R and hit record, and you can record your gameplay with that. So what you'll be submitting is just a 1 minute video. As far as what you create, I say just let your mind go free, do whatever you want. But think of it as kind of 1 minute of gameplay. I try not to get into the rules so much, but think about the play space and what's outside of that play space, and just have fun with it. Okay, so we're going to launch this guy. And it might take just a minute because of Unreal. And this is one of the things that I kind of talked about. Like the thing about third-party engines, because they try to be universal, they do a lot of things and they get bloated, right? And that's one of the complaints when you have a game studio that just focuses on one thing. You typically, the engine is really fast and slick at doing that one thing. That didn't take too long this time. Okay, so what we're going to do to start off is you get this this kind of library on things you want to do. Unreal Engine is good for architecture. Some of you talked about doing studio mockups and that kind of stuff. For automotive product and design manufacturing, for simulation things, for games, and film and video. It's very versatile. So we're going to click on games. And you can see up here, it gives you templates, which is one of the things I love. When we talk about mechanics in game design, the beautiful thing about the Unreal Engine, if you click on one of these and open up a template, it sets it up for you. If you want to make a driving game, we'd probably do that on not in the intro class, but previously in my level design class, if they wanted to do a driving game or something like that, you can do that because you can actually use the template and you already have a car that you can drive around with and build a level with. So you have a first-person shooter template, already has a gun. I think it shoots tennis balls, and you can easily edit that. Third-person template, that's the one we're going to be using. Then you have a top-down template, and virtual reality, handheld AR, we're not going to worry about those. For the later project, we're going to use a side-scroller template. I actually have a version 1 in where it already has a camera set up and it's already done for you. So we'll import that for the final project. There used to be a template for side-scrollers and 2D games, but they took it out. But we can recreate it pretty easily. So for this project, we're going to go third-person. Over here on the right, you have your choice of whether you want to use blueprints for scripting it out or C++. How many of you know C++? Holy cow, more than me. I put my hand down. We're going to use blueprints. If you want to use C++, you're welcome to. I'm not going to help bug fix anything. And ideally, this class is light on blueprints as well. Target platform is desktop quality presets. If you have a computer that's not super robust, or even if you do, for this class, I would just go scalable. So it doesn't have all those bells and whistles put on, so you don't have to worry about it. As far as starter content, you can take it or leave it. Later on, we're going to use some effects that are in the starters content and repurpose them for like some coin pickups and stuff. So you might as well just click starter content on. What that's just going to do is throw a whole bunch of junk materials and pre-made assets in there, but not too many to worry about. We're not going to use those, but just for the sake of having some of those effects in there, we'll keep it in there. And then you're going to want to name your project. And this is like my umpteenth Minecraft level. So this is Hello Minecraft. And you can name it, you know what way I should name it is so I know who you are, like your last name. We'll just call it Hello Minecraft HMC just for ease. And we'll call this in class or something. That way, use your last name. Naming conventions are crucial. I usually don't hound on them a lot until I start getting assignments and I don't know who this is from. Same thing happens in industry all the time. Name everything so that somebody who's not you looks at it, they know exactly what it is, kind of helps. And so we've done that. You can put it in whatever project location you want. These projects, as long as you have all the files, you can put them on a flash drive. You can move them from computer to computer, just like anything else. And as long as you have that same version of Unreal, you can open it up. In fact, you could probably open it up on a different version. It may have some issues, but usually it'll still work. Okay, so we'll hit create. If there are any questions, let me know. Hopefully that all makes sense so far. Okay, so this is the third-person template in Unreal Engine 5. So already they give you actually some test ramps and platformings, a little safe space to run around with. They even put some walls so you don't fall off, because what happens if you fall off? You fall forever. Now we could easily put in a death plane, but we're not going to worry about that yet. We can do that later. Did it? Did death? Did they? We'll test it out. Yeah. So, okay, we're going to go over a couple things here really quick. Over here on the right is your outliner. That's your friend. This is just like, honestly, it's just like Photoshop or anything else where it shows all your objects, your attributes, or whatever, the same as 3D modeling software. So I like the visual language here. Do you see all those little cinder blocks? So those are your 3D assets. And we'll go into a little deeper on these, but we have two different kinds of assets in Unreal, which they're all pretty much moving to static. They made some awesome upgrades to Unreal 5 for editing 3D objects. It's almost like its own 3D editor now, which is phenomenal. We don't have to get into it too deeply in this class, though. Basically, primitive objects are your friends, which are cubes, cones, and cylinders. We can do almost everything in. But those cinder blocks, those are all these assets. They represent all these assets inside this file. So I can click on any of them, and it will select that asset. You can see that's SM Cube 6. They did a great job. I'm not sure what SM stands for. Static Mesh. There we go. So that's Static Mesh Cube 6, which really it could be called Static Mesh Wall or something like that. It would make more sense, but it's a cube. So that's what it is. Before we delete or do any of this, I will show you how easy it is to actually get playing the game in Unreal Engine. You have this little green play button right here. So if I just click that, it starts the game right in the same viewport. So by default, you have this awesome female character that's called the Unreal Mannequin. They have a male and female version, but you're all ready to go with your character already. The beautiful thing about Unreal Engine, there's a lot of cool things, is the walk animations, the jump animations are already built in. And later on, if you had a class where you actually had to make a unique character or anything, you can actually remap all those current animations to just work with another character. There's a lot of powerful tools you could do to speed up your process. All the stuff we're not going to worry about in this class, though. For the most part, we're just going to use this mannequin as our character. And you can see we've already got some mechanics, right? We can walk and we can jump. Might not be perfect, but it's already built in. We already have all the tools we need to work as a level designer. So when we talked about the MDA framework earlier, how it's designing the rules and mechanic and the systems, those are already done for the most part. We can design additional mechanics, just like we watched in Mario Wonder. They can run the jump, but then if you want to do like a power jump or do something later on for your final project, when we do the 2D side scroller, we can totally do something like that. But for now, we're not going to worry about any of that. This is the simple onboarding session. So we have the character, we can run a jump, but we don't want any of this stuff. So I'm going to hit escape, takes me out of the gameplay. And you can see here's the player start right here. If I click that and select the player start, everything is nicely put into folders for me. So if I select this big playground folder and hit delete, which it's not deleting because it's a turd. Okay, we're going to select everything in it then. I'm going to hold down shift, select it. You can see it selects all the walls around there. We're just going to get rid of all this stuff. And I could select it all by hand too. See, that's a quarter cylinder. We could hit delete on all that stuff. And so the thing we're learning here is just how to left mouse click and delete. I know I'm going over everything as basic as possible because this is recorded. It'll be a video. We have a whole spectrum of students in here, so I want to make sure that it's super understandable. So if it's super simple, I apologize. Also, there are a million ways to do everything in most software. I'm just going for the most basic one because I find if I say, oh, and you can do it this way, and you can do it this way, it leads to confusion. So we're going to master a simple way first, and then later on we can say, oh, you can also do it this way, and then you have less choices, if that makes sense. So I'm just left mouse clicking and deleting all these, and you can see them here in the outliner. If I shift select more than one, I can delete them a lot faster in here. Basically, we're trying to get rid of all of our geometry. Like that. These are physics blocks that they put in there. I'm going to get rid of those too. And that pretty much gets rid of everything except for this text block. One of the things I love about Unreal is the text blocks. This says third-person template. As a level designer, when you want to say go this way or anything like that, it's cool to just grab the Unreal text, type in whatever you want, pop it in there, and you can visually tell the player something to do without having to script an event or even say like scripted event here, that kind of stuff. Really handy, but for now we're going to delete that. And that leaves us just with this player start. I'm told they fixed the falling forever thing, so let's test it out. Yeah, they did! Holy smokes! They killed the player, apparently. Which is awesome, right? And we'll look at that on the next one. I think on the next project, I'll actually have you remove the jump mechanic because it's walking only. So we can actually go in Blueprints and remove the connection from the jump button to the player button. So we'll look at that. Yeah, controller support's already built in. I prefer to play with controller. Unreal's pretty awesome. Okay, so you can see there, we can't see anything in our viewport. We're going to hit escape. So we're not playing anymore. We want to see what we're looking at again. So I'm going to select my player start over here in the outliner and hit F. If you ever want to reorient your visuals in the engine, F stands for focus. It works the same way, I think, in Blender, in Maya, most software.
Blender
is it different in Blender?
Numpad gives you all the different right.
So in Blender, I use the industry standard settings. So it might, I don't know. Yeah.
Like control just goes beyond.
Yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about Blender too, is you can do like industry standard and to whatever software you normally use, and it'll kind of focus it on that. But yeah, F stands for focus. It focuses in on whatever object. So if you lose your player or you're in a weird spot in your game, you can go to the outliner, select that object, and hit F, and it'll zoom your camera right into it. As far as controlling your camera, the middle mouse button will zoom in, zoom out. The right mouse button rotates your camera, and holding down both buttons will pan your camera around. And the nice thing that I use a lot is if you hold down the right button and use WASD, W-A-S-D, you can move around in your level like a traditional game. So it kind of gives you a lot of, like, to zoom around really quick in the editor. So it uses a lot of like kind of game controllers. Once you kind of get used to that, that's one of the biggest things is just navigating through Unreal. So now that we've done that, though, we need somewhere for the player to stand on. We want to bring in that block. So I've downloaded that .fbx cube that's on Canvas, and so I'm going to import that. Keep looking at this big screen. Okay, because it's nicer. Okay, we're going to do that. Under here is the content drawer. I'll tell you, in Unreal version 5, they've made the real estate of your editor much larger, and they've hidden a lot of stuff, which is actually really nice. The content drawer used to always be up. Now it kind of pops up and down. But we need to bring in that asset. So this is where all your game's content is located, in this content folder. When you create the template, Unreal automatically creates a folder structure for you. You've got your characters, which is your mannequin, your level prototyping, starter content is all in there, and then your third person. Just to make our life easy, we're going to right click and create a new folder. And we will just call this Hello Minecraft. Really, we should call it either a mesh or material, but we'll just call it stuff for the sake of the class. That's a bad naming convention, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's informal and I like it. So we're going to double click on that stuff. This is where we're going to put our materials and our mesh for the sake of this part of the class. So I'm just going to right click again within that folder and click on import to, and under my downloads, I should have that object cube beveled .fbx. I'm going to hit open on that, and it's going to open up a dialog. It has a bunch of choices. This is if you're importing like an animation or a complex mesh or something like that where you have other parameters. This is where you would check those. We don't need to worry about any of those. It's just going to put an automatic collision around that. So don't click anything on this, just say import all. And it's going to import two things. It's going to import the cube, and then it's going to import the material that was already associated with that cube from the 3D software that I used to create it. So it already has a material on it. So what we're going to do now with this cube is we're just going to grab it and pop it into our level, see what happens. If we focus in on it, you can see that we're focused in on it. I am going to make sure it's underneath my player start. Okay, so it's standing underneath my player start. I hit play now. And technically, I fulfilled the assignment. We've got a cube in there. It's got, well, I haven't because I would have to record too. I would have to export this. As far as the level editing, I've created a level. This is my first level. It's pretty amazing. I'm pretty proud of it. But let's see if we can do a little bit better. Okay, so we have this cube here. You notice we can move it around. We want to make many cubes, right? So if you hold down Alt and grab that cube, you can duplicate it. But notice how it's just moving in small increments. We want to make life a little bit easier. We want these to just snap one grid placement away from each other. So up here on the right-hand corner, like I say, we're just touching on a few things in Unreal Engine. This snap enables or disables snapping to the grid. It's on right now, but it's doing it in 10 increments, 10 unit increments. We wanted to do, just because I know what it is, we wanted to do in 100 unit increments. And that matches exactly what this cube is. So now if we hold Alt and snap, it will do it right next to each other. So you can see how we can start building out our first little level pretty quickly. So if I hold down Shift, I can select more units. So we select more of these blocks, hold down Alt again, to snap them right next to each other, and we can just keep doing this. So we can start building out the level pretty fast. I want to point out that since we placed this object snapping on 10 unit increments, it was off of this 100 grid format. So what you probably want to do is set it to 100 before you bring your first object in. That way, any subsequent block you want to bring in from the content drawer will snap to it. If I never bring any new ones in and I just duplicate this one, I'm fine. But you can see right now, if I bring a new one in, it actually landed pretty well. But I think it's overlapping by just one. Yeah. So it's overlapping just slightly. And this way, even more, right? So it's off grid a little bit. So I would probably delete all these old ones and just keep that new one. Select those in the outliner and delete it. And then just kind of start over. That way I know that if I bring anything new in, it's going to match that same grid pattern. And we'll hold those. Is this all making sense so far? Pretty simple. So hit play again. Now I have a bigger level. It's amazing, right? So this is the first foray. So now really quickly, we're going to make a material for this. We want to make some different materials. So what colors would you think you'd want to use in a simple flat color world that would help you define it? What?
Brown.
Brown, probably maybe brown and green. Any other colors? So do they have some in there?
Let's just look at it.
Oh, for Minecraft? Yeah, so they have some default ones in there, but we're going to create some of our own. So we're going to, oh, I didn't explain how to do that. Yeah, because we don't want to use anything with textures. That's kind of the rule of this. We just want flat colors. If there are flat colors in default, you could totally use those. Okay, so to go over this, so I'm not missing anything, so I'm going to right click, and this is the same place we imported an object. We're going to click on material. So we're going to create a new material. And that creates a blank material. So someone mentioned brown. So we're just going to call this HMC_brown for Hello Minecraft Brown. That way, if we do a search for that material later, we know if we just type in HMC, it'll give us all the colors we create because nothing else is named like that. It's kind of handy. And then we're going to double click on that material and it will come up with this node-based system. So we want to create a new base color. You see we have a lot of options there that we're going to ignore. That's if you want like a metallic shine on it, specular, all the PBR stuff that's really cool, makes games look cool. We're not going to worry about. not for this class. This is a level design class, not an environment art class. In fact, we're purposely keeping everything very simple and flat shaded. So on this base color right here, we are going to click on this little circle, this little node, and we're going to drag it off and let go. And automatically it's saying, what do you want to be connected to this? Like, what do you want? And this is one of those things that takes a little knowledge of Unreal. Like, if it were simple and easy to understand, I would say color. But what we need is a vector, which is 3 sets of numbers that calculate a color, just like in Photoshop, where you have like a numbering system based on colors. Probably another way to do it, but yeah. There's a what? Yeah, there's some different ways to do it too. For this way though, we're gonna say a constant 3 vector is what we want. Yeah, we're gonna keep it all flat shaded. Yep. I've had students that want to do like water and they've used like transparencies and stuff. I'll allow that. You can do a 50% transparency, pretty easy if you want to look it up. But this gives us those 3 numbers, right, to do a color. The nice thing is once you put that in there, you don't have to type in any numbers. Over here on the left, you'll see this constant variable underneath your material, your viewport material. We're just going to click on that and we can now select a color. So we wanted brown, right? So that's kind of in between yellow and orange. And this is the hue and the hue right here, or the saturation. We're going to put that up around to the middle. You can kind of decide if you want a dark brown or a lighter brown. We'll go like right in the middle. And we'll hit OK. And you'll see the little sphere update its color. And then that's our brown. We could go darker or whatever. And then once we've done that, we just have to hit save. And that will compile and save your material. Close out of that. If we now select one of these objects, one of these cubes or more, underneath the outliner, you can see this attribute editor underneath. If you look at this, this shows the attributes of that cube, one of which is the material. You can see the static mesh here and the material. A lot of different things you can adjust there if you want to change it to a physics object or adjust the collision or who can collide with it. Those are where you can adjust all those attributes. All stuff we're not going to worry about. The only thing we're going to worry about right now is the material, which you see right now, it's the world grid material. We're going to click on that and we're going to type in HMC. And you can see there's our HMC brown material and we will select that. So what I usually do, and we'll do a couple more, we'll open up the content drawer again. We're just going to click on that brown material, which isn't a very good brown. It's pretty light. We probably darken it up a little bit. But we can actually just duplicate that too and change the name to green. Oop, there we go. Come on, buddy. You can do it. Change the name to green. Got a little hand over it. We've duplicated that material. Now we'll double click on it and just change that color to green. And hit save. And one of the easy things to do, once you know kind of what colors you want to use, you can kind of just create your palette in here. So I'll just take another one and we'll change this one to green. And we could do a blue, we could do a yellow, we could kind of create just a series of cubes in there with all those colors on. Then we never have to assign another material because we can just pick the color we want and then move it around. Or once you've created out something really big and you just want to pick and choose, you can change the colors individually. Kind of makes it really easy. So this one we're going to change that HMC green. And you see the colors now changed. So now if I select this one and hit Alt, you can see I can create more green blocks or more brown blocks. Make it more vertical. But we can just start building out essentially our world from there. What's that? So I have a lot of students actually in the next location study project. They actually really like using cubes, and so use those again for like when we talk about those spatial relationships. But this one is going to be a 2-week project that we don't necessarily use again. It's a learning tool. It's an onboarding thing, but you could reuse it. I even had students use a variation of it for their like 2D side-scrolling project, more of a cube type level because they like it. It's an aesthetics thing. So put it into your tool set. But there we go. So now we have this really tiny world. But you can see right now, once you've done that, you can start selecting big swaths of blocks and just moving around, going vertical and going crazy with it. Does that all make sense? And this is all recorded, so it'll be saved. Yeah. So you can, but we're not going to on this one. Yeah, and that creates, yeah, I'm not sure what Unreal will do when we try to do that. You used to be able to do a lot less, but they've since, we'll go over some of the modeling tools in later classes, but they keep doing additions to Unreal Engine 5 that are just kind of like awesome. One of my biggest complaints is that Disney, I used Maya. I used a 3D modeling software was my editor, just like this, and then we would export with Octane. And so all the modeling tools I had in Maya were at my disposal, and it was really frustrating going into Unreal Engine 4, where you had none of those tools and you had to use like 2 groups of software. And now they've kind of merged that, where it's all kind of coming together fast with all the updates that are pretty awesome. And we'll cover those in more detail later. But purposefully, we're keeping this ultra simple. Okay, so now what we need to do, so we build out our level. It's incredible. I think I need some symmetry. It's killing me. I don't know what this means, but you know, if you want to turn this into a little tree, you can. Got your, start making some happy trees. You can totally Bob Ross this stuff, right? Start building out your trees. Grab some of these. Oops. And then, you know, once you've built out your tree, some of the things you can even do is you can even group these and copy them. But once you've built out a tree, you can then select it and duplicate that tree, move it around, kind of build parts around. Pretty fun. So here's a little world with a tree. Pretty amazing. And we now need to create an executable file. We need to create something that you could put it on a flash drive, share it with a friend, play it on any computer, put it on itch.io, and have anybody, your grandma, play it if she wants to, right? Something where you no longer need the game engine to run this game, right? So we're going to go here on platforms, this tab right here, and you can choose where you want to export this to. You can do Android, HoloLens, iOS, Linux, Linux ARM64, whatever that is, TV OS, is that Apple OS maybe or something, or Windows. Later on, you could get plugins to if you wanted to export it to the Switch or something else, right? But we just want to do Windows and choose how we want to do this. We could do shipping, which would be like the lowest amount of extra stuff for debugging. But we'll just use the project settings for development for this one. And we're going to click package project. So this will save it here in the class. I'm going to create a new folder just so I know where it is. We'll just call it playable. Playable. Hello Minecraft. And we'll put my last name on it just so we know. Hit that. Now it's packaging. I've had issues with my computer before. We'll see if it does it this time. But that packages out that project, creates an executable and a data file so that you then can play it standalone without Unreal Engine.